All right, good Tuesday evening, Mid-Michigan. Chief Meteorologist Chris Easlick here, coming to you with a quick update on what exactly to expect the next couple of days, plus a look at the all-important weekend where I'm sure you've heard by now the weather is going to get colder, and also it's looking like we'll have a chance for some flakes to fly this weekend. Not necessarily significant snow, but some of the first flakes of the season that we have seen locally. I know it's already snowed a little bit in the UP, but for us here in mid-Michigan, we will be waiting just a little bit longer. So let's take a look at what is happening here in the near term. We've got a system, an area of low pressure that is currently off to the north and west of us, and that is what's moving in our direction as we go through tonight. And I'm going to pull up while some of you are joining the stream just to see if we can get some comments here, just if everybody has something to say. It looks like Caleb says, I hope it will have sound this time. I'm assuming you're referring to Diane's stream earlier this afternoon. We had a technical difficulty with that, but please let me know if the sound is good this time. I think it is. I can see closed captioning, so I think we're in pretty good shape. But here's what we're working with tonight is we've got this area of low pressure that is currently out to the west in Minnesota and moving towards Wisconsin. And what this is going to do is it's actually going to move sort of right over the Upper Peninsula and the northern Great Lakes and then move from northwest to southeast as we head towards tomorrow morning. So for us here in mid-Michigan, while I think it's possible we get some showers here and there, I don't necessarily think this is going to be a widespread rain for us. And I also don't necessarily think it's going to be a heavy rain for us. I know we're not technically in the growing season anymore, so it's not like we're looking for rain in order for crops to grow or anything like that. But we do need to be cognizant, especially because of our dry summer and our dry fall and some of the drought conditions that have gone back to last fall. We do need to make sure we have at least some moisture going into next season. So while rain, I wouldn't say is as critical as it is during the growing season, we do need to set ourselves in a good position for next year as well. It looks like no one has said we've got any sound issues, and it looks like, Caleb, you've replied. So it looks like we're in pretty good shape. So Caleb, appreciate you. And it appears that we've got Jessica asking for 70s. And Jessica, I would say that's about as likely as beachfront property in Nebraska. So maybe by next spring we'll get some of that, but not anytime soon. So I want to walk you through later tonight. So we've got some showers with that system on their way. And those showers, again, likely going mostly to our north. You can see a lot of that out over Lake Huron towards tomorrow morning. But here's where I'm talking about. We might get at least a little bit of activity from this, where we get some of these showers that start to dive to the south. And you notice as we kind of fast forwarded in time there, they diminished as they moved in. But you still get some of this light development here and there. So I would say probably about a 20% to 30% chance of some showers tomorrow. 30 probably being a little bit more optimistic. I'd say a little bit more likely on the more spotty 20% type of range. It seems like they're mostly just light showers that come through. And you'll notice even as we start getting into the afternoon, not only are these showers starting to move out, they're becoming more isolated at that point. You can see far more out over Lake Huron and also going into Ontario, but also look back to the west. We're starting to clear out a lot more too. And so even though the model here is showing some showers by that time, is there even going to be enough moisture to support showers, let alone cloud cover? Might be a little bit tough to do at that point. I think we'll start to clear out even more going into Wednesday night, and that will set us up actually for a pretty nice Thursday. I think we're looking at a really nice day as far as sunshine is concerned. That's a really good day if you're still trying to pick up leaves and those types of things. I think you've got a great day to do that Thursday. Or maybe take advantage, it's November now. You don't have to turn them on, but perhaps it's a good situation to get those Christmas lights up. I know many of us are at work on Thursday, but if you're like me and you get to at least stay home until about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, well, it might be a good opportunity for you to get that done Thursday if you have the chance this weekend. I think Saturday you'll have some windows to do that too, but Thursday doesn't really hurt. Now, if you take a look at the rain predictor, not much, less than 1/10 of an inch out of this rain. So not really looking at anything all that significant there. Seems like a few hundredths of an inch, if that. And this might even be a little bit too widespread with this model projection right here. But I mean, the highest number that we're seeing is 0.04. really not that great, is it? So that's not going to be anything to write home about. What I do want you to know is that the wind today was much lighter than it was yesterday. That wind is expected to increase as we head towards tomorrow morning. So I think by the time you get up at 6, 7 o'clock tomorrow morning, you're probably going to start feeling that wind a little bit more than you did today. That wind is likely going to gust between about 25 and 30 miles per hour at times tomorrow during the first half of the day. I think as we start getting closer to the late morning and early afternoon, I think you'll start seeing some wind gusts as that wind turns to more of a northwesterly direction. I think you're going to start seeing that go towards more of a 30 to 40 mile per hour gust range. And then we'll stay there for a couple of hours. It seems like we really spike in the thumb tomorrow afternoon. Notice some of those gusts around the mid 40 mile per hour range. Sandusky getting up to some of those gusts as well. So I think that's something that's going to be a nuisance tomorrow. Once we start getting further into the afternoon, once we start getting closer to the evening hours, that is when I think you'll start to see a lot of that wind come down a little bit. Still breezy by that time, but I think you'll notice a bigger change the further into the night that we get. So the all-important focus here is on the end of the week, and I'll just, while that's loading up, see if we've got any other questions or comments. Paul asked a really good question about any accumulation on Sunday. Paul, I promise we'll get to that. And then it looks like we've got some other people watching too, and Caleb also asked the same thing about snowfall accumulation. So let's set the stage going into this weekend. So we can handle tomorrow's rain, we can handle tomorrow's wind. That's not really a big deal. And we've got temperatures in the 50s again tomorrow. But Friday we've got a quick hitting round of rain that seems to be centered mostly on the morning. I think we'll have a chance to get rid of that as we head towards the afternoon for at least a time. But then we've got this wraparound moisture that you see coming off of Lake Huron here, or excuse me, Lake Michigan, and it will eventually work its way back towards Lake Huron. Usually on the backside of these systems, you get that northwesterly flow and that wraparound moisture. So I think that activity is much more scattered than what we see during the first half of the day. That should wind down for most areas going into Saturday. And then I think Saturday itself, it's pretty isolated. But one thing you'll notice going into Saturday night is you've got what looks like another disturbance out this way, which has changed quite a bit since our data came in yesterday. But you're still noticing we've got a bit of a circulation with some of this precipitation. And what that is we're going to have winds that are starting to move out of that northwesterly and northerly direction again, which is primarily, it seems, going to trigger some lake effect snow and lake effect precipitation. But then as we go further into the weekend, you see some of that start to wrap around this way a little bit more. And then some of it will eventually find its way into mid-Michigan as well. One thing that typically happens this time of year, every situation is different, obviously, but usually what happens this time of year when we're still in that transition period between fall and winter is we get a lot of these systems that come in. It's the first true cold air outbreak of the season, and it's still warm enough during the day to at least cause some rain to be involved somewhat, more of a rain and snow mix or just outright rain. And then at night, when we start to drop down into those 20s and 30s, that's when we start getting cold enough for snow. So I think what we're looking at this weekend, at least in my opinion right now, we'll get better data as the week goes on, is I think our most favorable time frame for snow this weekend is probably going to be Saturday night, early Sunday morning as we cool down. I think as we start to warm up on Sunday, we'll start to get more of that mix going on. There could still be some areas that are cold enough for snow. And then as we start going back into Sunday night, we'll cool down enough again. We'll get a chance for some of that snow to get back involved. And then Monday is interesting because Monday looks like it will be cold enough during the day away from the lake shores. We still have warm water, relatively speaking, this time of year. Away from the lakeshore, I think we'll have a chance to be cold enough for maybe primarily snow, maybe a little bit of rain mixed in, but maybe sort of a 70-30 type precipitation towards the snow side of things. But the one thing that's going to be critical in all of that is not only temperature-wise, this is kind of fast-forwarding on me, but here's a look at what it is on Sunday afternoon. You're still getting those temperatures up in the upper 30s and low 40s, which we can have snow. Like the temperatures aloft are much more important than temperatures down at the surface when it comes to what is falling from the sky. But I think what's going to happen is those temperatures are still going to melt things enough, at least during the day, that we will have a chance to get some of that melting as those snowflakes are falling. They may survive down to the ground, but they might be melting as they do so. And then on Monday, you see a pretty stark temperature change going into the afternoon, where instead of those low 40s, we've got more or less mid 30s to upper 30s, maybe some 40s near the lakeshore, but that should be much more favorable for snow. The problem is that even as we start to cool down into Monday, as of last check yesterday, I have not checked today, our ground temperatures still in about the 40 to 50 degree range, and those can change quickly. But if we're going to have ground temperatures that warm, that's not to say we can't get accumulating snow, but the warmer the ground temperatures, the harder it has to snow for us to overcome that. And even if we snow hard enough to get a coating here and there on some of those grassy surfaces, probably, I don't necessarily think we're looking at much accumulation, if any, on pavement. But if we are going to get some grassy accumulation, I think the best chance of that will be if we got some really heavy snowfall rates. And right now, just not seeing that happening. And even if we did, I think those snowfall rates probably aren't going to be enough to fight off what is warming up from down below. And so even if you get a quick coating, it may only last a short period of time before it's already starting to eventually melt once again. So next week, I think we have a chance to get some decent snow on Monday, not necessarily anything significant as far as the amounts, but I think we'll have our best chance late Sunday into Monday to get those flakes flying. Is it going to be anything meaningful? For snow lovers who hold snow to a high standard, probably not. For those who want to at least feel a little bit more festive this time of year as we start getting into the holiday season and that time frame, I think it's possible that we see some decent snow showers. But keep in mind, it is only Tuesday. We have a long way to go before we get there. So let's see. Looks like I answered Paul's question. Paul, thanks for the question. These live events are a lot easier when people actually talk to me. So I'm glad to have friends like all of you on the live stream for tonight. We'll see what happens with as we go forward here. Let's take a look at just some of those wind chills as we go towards the Sunday time frame. Even if we get up into the upper 30s and low 40s on Sunday, it's looking like it'll feel like the 20s much of the day. So Sunday probably going to get that really first true winter feel with those wind chills that are down in the 20s, and I would imagine it's even worse going into Monday. We've got some wind chills that are sneaking up into the 30s, but during the morning it could feel like the teens as some of those students go out to the bus stop early next week. So that could be a pretty big shock to the system after we've been pretty spoiled temperature-wise. And then here's just a look at some of the numbers as we head towards next week. We've got highs on Monday potentially only in the 30s, and then there could be some areas that are stuck in the 30s as soon as Sunday as well. So a pretty big pattern shift. Do I think anything is done? Do I think the 50s are gone for good? I think it's a little bit too early to say that. If any of you are hunters, a lot of questions on, is it still going to be cold by the time the 15th rolls around? I don't think it's going to be as cold as Monday and Tuesday. I think there's going to be a chance to warm up a little bit more as we head towards the 15th. Will it be in the 60s? Probably not. But I think Monday and maybe Sunday, probably those first 2 days where it's really going to be chilly and where we're really going to start feeling that just a little bit more. Just a couple of things. We're going to try to stream here every night. Next week we have some coverage on the Edmund Fitzgerald for those of you who are interested in that topic. The Edmund Fitzgerald, of course, this is the 50th anniversary of the sinking of the Edmund Fitzgerald. So I am tomorrow actually going to interview former TV5 reporter Rick Mixter. We should have a pretty good interview on his thoughts on the Fitzgerald wreck. He's one of the few people that has had the opportunity to dive the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. So we'll hear from him tomorrow, and then that will air sometime next week. Also looking forward to hopefully having former TV5 meteorologist Kyle Gillette on to talk about shipwrecks. Maybe we'll have John on sometimes, but Kyle is the one who talks about shipwrecks, and he's got a pretty good handle on that. So Kyle's going to be potentially with us one night next week. We will advertise that because I know many people had a chance to enjoy Kyle while he was here, and we'll kind of see where the week takes us. And of course, we'll also have plenty of opportunities as we go through the winter months here to talk about incoming winter storms and all of that stuff too. So appreciate all of you for watching. We'll end the stream right here. If you have any questions post-stream, I'll be happy to answer those for you. But otherwise, we will see you next time.